So I have this little, well, it's not a timeline, it's a journey. I call it the code journey. And this is just a general guideline. It's absolutely not a rule that must be followed. I break it all the time, but it's just an idea to get you started. So this is how I think about code when I'm writing something new. I will tend to start it inline. So if, say, I'm writing some new UI code, I will possibly just start it inline in the component that's going to be adding this UI. And only when I figure out that, okay, this is on the right track, when I'm starting to get a sense of what I'm doing, then maybe I will extract it into its own component. And as that component grows and becomes perhaps useful to other files as well, then I will move it into its own file. Now, I often start with creating a file from the get-go, and I even start further to the right in this line, but as a general guideline, it's good to start like this, I think. I will then see where this file belongs, and the more I use it, the more generally applicable it becomes, and the more generic it becomes, the further up in the directory tree I'm going to move it. My directory tree tends to sort of mirror the levels of abstraction in the code. This doesn't match 100%, and it's not always applicable, but that does sort of seem to be how things work, at least the way I end up structuring my code. The last folder that I will probably have is some sort of shared folder. At least I typically have that for components and hooks. It's a little bit different for other things, but maybe there's going to be a util folder for the server or something where I have really generic stuff that can be used all over the place. But if I find out that this is actually something that can be used by multiple packages, or it really is very generic, then maybe I'll create an NPM package, so to speak, in my monorepo. I'm going to be going over this when we reach the workspaces lesson, because we're going to be using workspaces, which is sort of a way to create little NPM packages in your repository. And then finally, if something is actually useful to others, or I just feel like this is something I'm going to be using in more projects, then maybe I will end up creating an NPM package, because then it's just so generic that it really should be published. It could be a private package, but I prefer to try to make things open source if that is possible.
If you want to keep learning about how to build real-world apps with the latest technologies and other career-related topics, then start right now by subscribing to our channel and liking this video.